and I believe we're going to get this thing started. So I'd like to please give a round of applause for our panelists as they enter. Welcome, welcome. Excellent. So I will be reading off your intros, but after I read off your intro, please feel free to say something about yourself or anything that you would like to share with our students, okay? Excellent. First off is Mr. Jeffery Tribble Jr. He is the CEO of the Musicianship, the founding CEO of the Musicianship. It is a nonprofit organization that facilitates music lessons, experiences, and opportunities for youth. This year, the Musicianship will serve over 1,600 youth in DC, Paris, Johannesburg, and St. Martin. Also, they participate in the Whammy Awards. Y'all heard of the Whammy Awards or the DC Funk Parade? Any of y'all been to the Funk Parade? It happened in summertime? Yes, excellent, excellent. As a result of his work in the musicianship, he has received many civil awards, including DC's Top 30 Under 30 from WKYS and 96.3 Modern Man by Black Enterprise Magazine, Magic Johnson's 32 Under 32, The Playbook. In addition to serving as the musicianship CEO, Jeff oversees business affairs for the Pro Bowl NFL cornerback Josh Norman. Anybody know that guy? And was the chief strategist for R&B superstar Jeremiah in 2016. Please welcome Mr. Jeffery. Check, check. Please, if you want to say anything about yourself or not, or say something to the students.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, good morning. Thank you all for having me. Really excited. Anytime I have an opportunity to speak to young people, particularly young people who grew up like I did. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and it was really music. It was opportunities like this, getting in front of people who had life experiences that at the time I may not have had, but maybe wanted to have. That was really useful for me. And so the fact that I'm able to hopefully impart some knowledge today and give you all something to aspire to alongside my wonderful co-panelists here. That's just awesome. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much. Next we have Mr. Ty Hobson-Powell, a youth advocate for 51 for 51 as well. Ty is a native Washingtonian and a lifelong international community advocate. He is a published author. He is a published author. There we go, right? And a recognized public speaker. You can do it, right? After graduating from high school at 13 years old, Ty attended Montgomery College. 13. Ty attended Montgomery College. He then attended Howard University before he went to gain his bachelor's degree from the University of Baltimore at 15? How about it? And his master's degree from Liberty University at 17. Since then, he's worked with the DC's Office of Youth Programs, Hillary for America with Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign, 51 for 51 statehood campaign, and is currently working with the University of the District of Columbia as a strategic consultant with the Office of the President to assist in institutional efforts to close the opportunity gap. Please welcome Ty.
Thank you. Just honored to be here with a great panel. I know that we're gonna hopefully give you guys some good insights, and much to the point of this brother here, what he said, a lot of how I was able to do what I've done was putting myself in places with people that I admire, with people that I look up to, and just absorbing and just listening. So hopefully we give you guys something to listen to today. But thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Ty. Ms. Anai Montero, Marketing and Communications Director for Coakley and Williams Construction. Ms. Anai Montero is a third-generation construction specialist. a BA in Communications from the University of Maryland, and now serves as the Marketing and Communications Manager at Coakley and Williams Construction, CWC, a prominent general contractor in the Washington, D.C. area. In addition to the CWC Culture and Vision Committee, she's an active member of the CWC Women's Group and proudly supports Women in Construction movement. Please clap your hands for Ms. Anai.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And I just wanted to say that I'm here to be as transparent and open as possible, because growing up, I faced some issues that maybe some of you in this room are facing. I do come from an illegal immigrant family. I grew up with some problems in my life, such as domestic violence and alcoholism. So I'm here to answer all of your questions. I'm happy to let you know how I overcame those obstacles to get to where I am. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Mr. Charles Baronette, a stakeholder engagement specialist at Edgewater Federal Solutions, Incorporated. Charles is data-driven, has expertise in a full-scale software implementations for Fortune 500 companies, extensive experience in leveraging machine learning and SAP technologies. Charles uses his powerful communication skills to work alongside clients and gather the correct data points to relay the development teams, and his foresight and industry knowledge to identify gaps in the system functionality. Ask him more about that, okay? That was a mouthful. How about it? I'm sure it's awesome. He's worked with several major clients such as PGE, IBM, Department of Energy, and the Marine Corps. Please clap your hands for Mr. Charles.
I want to say thanks for having me here. Like everyone from this panel, very local to the area. Actually went to high school with one of your administrators, Blanco. Definitely, I heard you guys talking about networking coming into the room, and it's definitely important. I know you guys kind of sitting here listening on about some of the different opportunities that we have, but we're here because I can speak for the rest of the panelists, saying that we care about you guys and the opportunities you guys have here, so we're trying to be a resource. So whatever you guys need, feel free to ask it, or any other questions you guys might have along the way.
Thank you, thank you. We have another panelist, Julius. I'll introduce him when he comes, so we'll take care of that. So let's get into it. Y'all ready? Yeah. Excellent, excellent. So I'm just gonna ask a question. If you feel like answering it, go ahead and jump on in, and we'll definitely make room for more than one reply if needed. So I'm gonna start with the first question. Now, what career mistake has given you the biggest lesson? So what career mistake has given you the biggest lesson?
I would say the biggest career mistake I used to make was that I would say yes to everything. A lot of times when you're a good worker and you're talented, everyone wants a little piece of that, but you really have to prioritize what's important and what projects you can dedicate your full time and energy to in order to be successful. So saying no is something that was really hard for me to do initially, because I just thought I always had to say yes, but you don't. You have to learn how to speak up and how to say no sometimes.
Excellent, because the quality of your work can suffer, correct? Like if you're doing all of these things, especially things maybe outside of your job description, or everybody's pulling on you from different directions, what you're supposed to do can suffer, correct?
Yeah, definitely, yes. If you spread yourself too thin.
Indeed, indeed. Any other takers?
Yeah, one mistake that I kind of learned earlier in my career is about aesthetics, kind of how you look when you're coming into a room. Not saying anything against anyone's like personal styles, but a lot of people sometimes will discredit you just when you walk into a room not looking the particular way or approaching the situation in a particular like fashion. So kind of doing your best to look like you know what you're talking about, and kind of paying attention to those little details can make the world of difference sometimes in some meetings.
Excellent. Have you guys felt that way sometimes, by like you're judged by how you look, or you're judged or incorrectly about how you look? Anybody? Yeah? Got you. This is why we accentuate and really want you guys to learn like professional attire, because you have to play the game to a certain extent, right? You have to play the game. We know that your light shines bright. We know that you can look like your jeans could sag. You could have the Balenciagas. You got the Yeezys and this and that. And you still, you're still intelligent. You have a bright light. You're mannerable. You're professional. Yet, when the world sees you, they might not see that. Therefore, like Mr. Charles said, you have to play the game. All right. Anybody else want to answer that?
Well, I was just gonna piggyback on that playing the game comment. So you guys see me right here, right? And got my Air Force Ones, right? Just chilling. And part of why I sort of dress casually in a lot of places and spaces that I've been in is because, given my story, given all of the things you just heard her spit out, people don't often associate that with the kid in the hoodie, with the kid in the Jordans, with the kid and so what I'm trying to do is to redefine that narrative and to let them know that you can't associate me with my outfit, because I can show up in a hoodie and I can quote Socrates, and that does not discount my intellectual ability. Now, when we talk about professional mistakes that I've made, because that was the call of this question, I would say that one professional mistake that I made very early on was confusing people that were around with people that were there for me. Because I think that, when you come into an organization, to a company, you think everybody has your best interest at mind, but sometimes there are people there that are just picking you for the resource that you are, and they'll leave you out to dry when they have the opportunity to. So just really sort of recalculating my cares to be only work-related when I was at work and not really trying to befriend too much. Now, granted, you can make friends at work, and I would encourage you to do that if you can, but just understanding that mixing the business and personal sometimes gets a little tricky.
Thank you, Ty.
Yeah, just to kind of echo the sentiment on attire and professionalism, I wear sweatpants to work almost every day, largely because I'm a CEO, right? So I've gained that privilege over the course of the last 10 years. With that said, I don't wear sweatpants every day. If I'm meeting at the mayor's office, I'm meeting with the Department of Small Local Business Development, I wear a suit, you know what I mean? We had our 10-year anniversary gala at the French Embassy just 2 weeks ago, and so that's a tuxedo. And so I think situational awareness is important. Knowing who you're gonna be going into a room with is very important, but there's something to be said about your authenticity and being able to go into a room and be who you are. Mistakes, I wouldn't call this a mistake. I went straight from undergrad to law school at GW, not too far from here, and it was in my second year that I founded my organization. And so I don't think that it was a mistake to go to law school, but I realized very quickly that I wasn't destined to practice law. And so I think you should just think about how you can marry your passion with your interests. That is something that will carry you very far and ultimately give you I think a more sustained trajectory in life.
Excellent. Thank you. So, next question. What's the biggest risk that you've taken in your professional career or in this role that you have now? The biggest risk that you've taken?
Starting a nonprofit in law school, definitely.
That's a big risk. I would say for me, my risk was graduating high school and then choosing to move out of my parents' house at 13, because that came with a lot of just different complexities. Nobody knew how to maneuver that world around me because nobody was 13 in college around me. So it was a really tough decision about whether or not I wanted to move forward or not. I would say for me, though, I made my decision looking at my friends that were being institutionalized, that were going to juvenile detention center, that were seeing early graves. I said to myself, if I don't make it to this better institution, I'll trickle into one of these lesser ones. And so I just kind of made that a thing to do. But that was definitely probably one of the harder decisions. I'm glad I made it, though.
I haven't made too many big risks, but I would say maybe the scariest one was starting a new job, because sometimes you can get comfortable where you are, and it's kind of scary to make that leap. But I will say, when you trust your instinct and you really listen to your gut, you know if you're making a right decision or not. So starting a new career at a new job, that was scary for me. I had never worked in construction, in the way that I am now, because I do have a little experience with my dad. But just taking that leap of faith and knowing that I was going to a good company, I interviewed and I really felt the vibe. And I could tell that it was a family-oriented place and it was somewhere that I belonged, as opposed to maybe other places where I interviewed and you can just tell that the energy wasn't right. So just trust your instinct.
I'm going to go with the professional standpoint. Previously, I'd worked at IBM, which is a company that has about 100,000 employees, to a company that had 500 employees at Edgewater, just for the opportunity to kind of take on a stronger role and kind of advance myself. And sometimes, especially in life, you're going to have to take those opportunities where you kind of bet on yourself opposed to anything else.
Thank you. So with risk, taking risks, you have to be ready for some movement, right? So speaking of movement, how do you guys avoid being complacent, in the role that you're in now? How do you keep it moving? How do you keep new ideas coming fresh, et cetera?
So my grandma always told me this one thing. She said, don't get too caught up in the highs or the lows. You get too caught up in the highs, you'll never do a great thing again. You'll be stuck there. You get too caught up in the lows and you'll never motivate yourself to make it to the highs. And so for me, I just sort of move through life fluidly. I don't get too stuck in any moments, whether they're tough moments, whether they're great moments, because I know that they're only that, moments. We are in a moment in time within a moment in time at all times. And so we just try to make the most of that, and I think that's how I do it.
I mean, this is a question that I ask myself often. We look at some of the people that we aspire to be or act like or listen to, whether it's Oprah or whether it's Jay-Z or P. Diddy, and I look at some of those folks and I say, what makes them want more? What makes them want to drive towards more? And so I am still trying to figure out this question for myself as to what quote-unquote success looks like. I mean, I can think of times where I've looked at some of my peers and I said, that is success. And so when I get there and I was like, okay, well, there's more that I can do. And so, some of you may have heard this song by Meek Mills where he says, there's levels to this. And so I think there's just levels, and you just, keep your foot on the gas and take stock of what you have, certainly, but just always strive to do more and be better.
For me, not to get complacent, I like to continue my education. I like to keep learning and keep growing all of the time, because doing that, you learn a new way of doing things, better way of doing things. You improve all of the time, and you might discover new passions. So I would say never stop learning, even if you're in your dream job. Go to that conference, take that class, get together with your friends, network. Always keep going and don't ever just sit still, because there's so much more to learn every single day.
So growing up in a Jamaican household, it's kind of, if you only have one job, you're lazy. So that's literally just like you go for 3 or bust. So I've kind of always had that grind instilled on me. So I kind of, after getting to where I'm at, it's always, where's the next point I can get to, or where's the next point I can get to after that. And then eventually, when you get to that point, it's who you can bring along with you.
Nice, thank you. When you were speaking, Jeff, you were saying that you were looking at your friends and what they were doing and things like that. Can you tell us the dangers of comparing yourself to your colleagues or your peers or your friends, as opposed to looking at them for motivation or looking at them for inspiration or things of that nature? Can you touch on that, please?
Yeah, I think it's particularly important now to be comfortable with who you are. When I was growing up in Chicago and presumably everywhere around the world, everyone got bullied for something. For me, it was my thick eyebrows. At the time, I was really skinnier than I am now. And when I got home, it was pretty much over. Now, you all have so much more to face. I mean, there's bullying online. You may go home after a hard day's work where you got bullied or talked about or joned on for one reason or another, And then you're under your covers looking at your phone at these picture-perfect images of your peers. Oh, they're doing this, oh, they're doing that, oh, they got these new shoes. They got, we didn't have to deal with those kinds of things when I was coming up. So I really commend you all for just being able to get out of bed every day and do what it is that you do. Depression now has less of a stigma on it. I think it's something that people are beginning to sort of realize is something that's very real and palpable, and it's affecting your generation more than it is mine or baby boomers or whatever the generation was before that. And so, I don't have all of the answers necessarily, but what I would say is that, that there's a speaker, actually he's a pastor out of, I want to say maybe Houston or Carolina. His name is Stephen Furtick, and he has this really impactful quote, and it says, something to the effect of, don't let your behind the scenes compare to everyone else's highlight reel. And I think that that's a lot of what we take home with us every day. We have these, problems that no one knows about, some of which we're not really willing to share openly, and then we look at everyone else's highlight reel online, and it's just a highlight reel, it's just a facade. But those people have problems just like you, so don't get in the habit of comparing yourself to others.
I was just about to say that I think, just to piggyback on that, Instagram, Twitter, that's everybody showing you the sexiest moments of their life. They're going to show you when they just bought a house, but not when they got evicted. They're going to show you when they just got a car, but not when they got a repo. It's literally, and so to that end, comparison is not only the thief of joy, but it's going to be the thief of success, because you're sitting there comparing to a race that they're not even really running. But they're going to sell it up to you like they are. And so for me, I just try not to get too caught up, which is, again, a hard thing to do, because we all are kind of subconsciously comparing ourselves. When we get on Instagram, we scroll down the timeline and we see somebody on vacation, or somebody with that fly outfit, or that girl that you want, or whoever it is, them clothes, whatever it is. We are watching people have things that we don't have that we want, and sometimes that inspires feelings that aren't always the best. For me though, I try to be motivated. I don't look at these things that I don't have with any level of spite. I look at them and I say, one day I'll have it myself. And I think that that's sort of a thought to have, is that if you are going to look and be a part of this social ecosystem that we have going on now, we're always posting things on Snapchat and all of that, understand that a lot of the times the perception is not the reality. Don't get too caught up in trying to build a facade. Just build your reality, and one day it'll match.
Cool. I'm about to do you. Don't talk. Here we go. Thank you for those answers. So we have our last panelist. We're so glad that you made it. His name is Julius Valentine. Excellent. Julius Valentine Maina, Partnership Coordinator for the U.S. Census Bureau. They're hiring now. Ha ha. Yeah, talk to him. Network time afterwards. Anywho, Julius currently works as a partnership coordinator at the U.S. Census Bureau. He establishes strategic partnerships with organizations that serve as the trusted voices in their communities and develops strategies to increase census participation among traditionally low response score areas for the 2020 census. It's important that everybody's counted, but the climate that we're in, it's a little nerve-wracking. Anywho, prior to this role, Mr. Maina worked as a policy and inclusive innovation specialist at the Minority Business Development Agency. Mr. Julius holds a BA degree in quantitative methods, minor in economics from the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, a MA in human resource development from BSU, Bowie State University. All right, got some alum here. All right, Harad, myself here, shout out. Howard always gets all the love, right? That's that guy, all right. Also, he recently attained his JD, Juris Doctor, from the University of Baltimore School of Law. Please welcome Julius. Please say something about yourself, sir.
Thank you. So I first want to apologize for being late. I have no excuse other than I should have planned better. You know, a lot of people will give you long stories, but I should have planned better, so apologies for being late. Your time is valuable. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, sir. So we're going to keep right into it. Y'all with us? If you with us, say yeah. Yeah. LAYC? Yeah. Okay, you paying attention, focus? Do we need a stretch break? What you need? We okay? We good? question? We all right? Excellent. All right, because I want you to be focused. I want you to be with us. You know what I'm saying? So here we go. How did you set yourself apart from others who wanted the same job? So how did you set yourself apart from others who wanted the same job you wanted? Anybody, please.
So I'll rock this off. I think a lot of times in the roles that I've been in, it was always conversations about people that look like me, but nobody that looked like me. So a lot of times I would just interject. I'd be like, hey, having grown up in that community, I have something to say, right? And then they would try to check something. I'd be like, actually, I just got my degree in quantitative methods, and if numbers don't lie, because I love hip hop, let's look at the numbers, right? We have a lot of statistics about our people. Let's go to the numbers. And I love numbers because all my mentors, so I grew up in 2 years of high school in Brooklyn, New York, and they love numbers, 5% is yada, yada, yada. So that street knowledge is what I always brought to the rooms. And when you polish it a little bit, people cannot refute what you're saying, and then you polish it and then add your experience, which a lot of times the people in the rooms that don't look like us do not have our experience. And so I just always did numbers plus experience plus polish, and it just always elevated my story in a different way.
Excellent, excellent.
I can't speak for what others did because I wasn't in the room when other people were interviewing for my position, but I can tell you what I did, which was I brought my best self, and that means I prepared. That means long before an interview happened, I would research the company that I wanted to work for. I studied their website like 10 times, went to every single page, went on YouTube, practiced interview questions, and I live by myself, so I would just practice by myself, record myself, listen to myself, listen to what other people did, took bits and pieces of what I thought the best answers were, and then made them my own with my own experience. Came on time, got good sleep, got dressed up, and I was fully present. So just bring your best self, good energy, do your homework. Don't go in there thinking that you can wing it because someone else didn't wing it. They prepared.
Nice. I'm hearing knowing your worth. And Mr. Julius said know your worth, know what you have, and what you know is valuable. And with the little polishing because of the environment that you're in, if you're strong and confident in what you are and speak up and believe in yourself enough to speak up, folks gonna listen because what you have is valuable and valid because you are the experience. You live these things. And, I got with Miss Anai, it's saying preparation. Every time you go for a job interview, you should be all on that website. You should know when the company was started, what they're all about. It impresses people. And it's good for you to know because this is what you want to be involved in as well. Did you have anybody else who wanted to answer that? Or we can move on to the next question.
Yeah, I'll speak from a slightly different perspective. The Musicianship, my organization, we have 40 full and part-time staff. And so when I'm looking to hire people, I am looking for people who do have just a comprehensive understanding of what we do. I'm looking for people who can write really well. Writing is one of the most forgotten disciplines, in my personal opinion, but it's something that can really, so at the end of my interviews with people, we might do, an hour and a half interview, but unbeknownst to them, the last 30 minutes will be a writing prompt. And so I'll send them an email with something to write on. And a lot of times after having aced an interview, someone will kick back a writing prompt that's not what it should be. And these are people who have PhDs and master's degrees and things like that. And so if I could impress upon you anything, it would be to write well, work on your writing.
That's why we accentuate the tape and things like that, these tests, so we know that you can do what you say you can do because you have to show and prove out here, right? It's not because sometimes DC does you a disservice and you get a diploma, but you're not reading on the right grade level. But we want you to get there, so here we are drilling it into you so you can be great like you are. You understand? Yes? Excellent. So that's a wonderful segue into the next question. What impresses you the most when you are considering hiring someone? Have CEOs up here. They hire people. They run things. They wear sweatpants when they want to because they're in charge. They're in charge. Excellent. But yes. What impresses you the most when you are considering hiring someone? I know it's writing for you, Jeff.
For me, I would say fearlessness. So like a lot of people tend to be intimidated by statuses, by hearing, you know what I'm saying, your story or whatever the case may be. I like people that fearlessly present ideas that they think are the best ideas. I won't always agree, but I think that the passion behind that is the thing that drives innovation, which for me is very important in all the businesses that I help run. Outside of that fearlessness, though, I would just say just in general decency. Like, just be a good person. I feel like if you're a good person, I'll always find some fit for you in the organization that I can. So just being a decent person and fearlessness.
So 2 things I would mention. One, being able to relate the story back to you. A lot of these jobs and like interviews you're gonna be like applying for, they'll list these are the traits or something that we're looking for. Being able to relate those stories back to your personal experiences really helps you stand out. And then 2, just as much as you're interviewing for the position, you wanna interview the company to make sure it's the right fit for you. So don't be afraid to ask a question like, how's your culture fit? Or, okay, where do you see this role going in 3 to 4 to 5 years? Being able to take those leaps that after I'm here, this is where I wanna go, and not just having the battle be like, let me get there.
And for me, it's actually going back to what you said. Research and preparation impressed me off the break, because anything you can find out before the interview, it is your responsibility to do that. You have access to a phone, computers, do your research, know everything about the company, about me, about my bio, all of that, and find a way to connect with me, right? So the first thing is connection. If I could connect with you, then I might be able to work with you, right? So that's number 1. 2 is your ability to asset frame your life. That means we've all been through things in life, right? And they're valid, right? But a lot of people talk through what they've been through like they're still there. But if you can flip that in an interview, like, you know what, I grew up in that neighborhood, and the barbershop helped me learn to read and write, right? Because a lot of times we don't know that we have mentors. We've just not defined it the right way, right? We have, our parents might not have, you know, we might be first generation, but our parents still made sure we stayed up and did the reading and the writing, right? Tell your story from an asset framing perspective, because that shows me that you have the ability to not only go through, but see your life past where you are, right? So preparation, research, and asset framing.
Nice, thank you. So I'm gonna ask one more question, and then I'm gonna open it up for you guys. So I hope you've been jotting down. I see some notebooks, but jot down your questions, get them ready. After this next question, it's gonna be opened up to you guys, okay? All right, so, what was the biggest challenge to achieving success? What was the biggest challenge that you had to achieving the success that you have now?
I can start. For me personally, I did mention that alcoholism runs in my family, so I picked up some really bad habits. When I graduated from college, I had 2 DUIs. So because of my background check, I actually wasn't able to get a job right away. I had to wait several years to get it expunged. So that was a huge challenge for me, caused a lot of depression in my life. But the way to overcome that really, and I would say, is you have to learn how to face yourself. And you have to learn how to recognize what your weaknesses are and what your life issues are. Because if you don't face those things and if you don't learn how to grow from them, you'll get stuck there and you'll never be successful. So
excellent, excellent. I was just talking to a student yesterday, just basically about just knowing yourself. And it's like, okay, if you can't get off your phone during school time, bet you have a myriad of people here that will help support you not being on your phone so you could focus in class. Student gave up his phone to me. I said, that's right, my man, because you got to know yourself. You came here for a reason. If that's taking you away from what you came here for, you have supports. Use your supports so you can get to where you need to go. Excellent. Anybody else? What the biggest challenge to achieving success?
So just really quickly, by show of hands, how many of y'all have been on the metro or something like that and seen a fight going on while y'all were there? How many of y'all lost a friend or something during your childhood? that's not all too uncommon here in DC as the experience. And so for me, I would say my biggest challenge was surviving, right? Being this kid in this city that knew that I wanted to do good for the world, but having to be artificially battle hardened just to come out in the world and survive. I remember doing mean things just because I didn't want to be bullied. Just because I had to just assert myself as being that person before I got moved on. You know, I remember memorializing people on T-shirts and with hashtags and seeing the fights and not being able to get on a red line after school without seeing a fight or being a part of one. And so I think it is going back to mental health, because my dad is a mental health expert. The PTSD of all of those experiences accumulated that sort of dragged on with me throughout life and found its way into other stuff, whether it's risky lifestyles or the alcohol or poor spending or whatever, trying to feel something amidst all that emptiness that was inspired by growing up here in this city, because there's a lot of wild stuff going on. A lot. We're at 168 homicides now in 2019. So when you look at what we face just by leaving the house every day, there's a lot to be discouraged by. But I said for me, pushing through was about knowing that I was bigger than those moments, that I was bigger than those roadblocks that were trying to stop me, trying to use everything as inspiration. So like I lost a friend, Chris, 2015 on the corner of 8th and Jefferson, got shot in the head. He was 20 years old. And so when I think about my worldview and the things that I want for myself, I try to live a life that those other people can't live, won't ever be able to live, and that helps me sort of push through. Another part of it, though, is just talking about it, being honest, sharing it with somebody, whether it's a therapist or somebody trusted in your family. We got to have conversations about these things we're experiencing, because it's heavy, and we deserve that. And I think just taking care of yourself, really focusing on self-care is something that will help you through a lot of the roadblocks in life.
So for me, it's two things: imposter syndrome and lack of financial literacy, right? Do y'all know what imposter syndrome is? So that means as you succeed in life, you get to places and you leave a lot of people behind. So you get into a room and you feel like, I do not belong here, right? And it's not because you're not successful. It's not because you can't sit in that room. It's like, it's just not what you're used to, right? So starting high school, my mom made me go to, by the last 2 years, they put me in prep school. I was a scholarship kid, but I was in prep school. And I never felt like I belonged, right? It took me a really long time to feel comfortable wearing a suit in the places where I grew up. So I live in Baltimore City. So merging this version of myself and who I thought I was really, really tough. If you met me 10 years ago, I didn't wear suits. I had locks, right? I had a very different swag. But I'm still the same person. I just dress different, right? But my ability to be authentic everywhere that I go is why I still connect with everywhere I came from, right? But it took me a really long time to get there. Number two, financial literacy. I'm still learning how to save, right? So saving and debt, no matter how successful you get in life, if you cannot manage your debt, you're still gonna be broke, right? So learning how to just spend your money in a way where you don't have to keep up in the rooms that you're in, right? Like I love thrift stores now, right? I wear Casio watches that are $5, but it's how you wear it, right? The minute I realized swag trumps money any day of the week, right? It allowed me to still be in the rooms, do it my way, right? I'm not keeping up with anybody, and then still go back to places where people are like, you know what, I like that pinstripe suit, boss. And I'm like, I can tell you how to get this, right? So I stayed connected to everywhere I came from, and I'm still learning how to save. So imposter syndrome and financial literacy.
I think two things I would say is every time someone asks you to do something, there should be a why and a how behind it. So you shouldn't just be doing tasks and not understand the reasoning of why you're doing it. There's been so many times where like my professional career is just, you just want to keep your heads down and make sure that you're doing something. But if you don't understand the why in doing something, you'll never really get to the point to see where it connects and where you can go forward with it.
Yeah, I think more important than my sharing, my biggest challenge is just sharing with you that despite the fact that these folks shared challenges, they shared the challenges that they wanted to share today. but that they had more challenges. And so I think it's important for you to know that you will have challenges every day, every week, every month, every year, because when she sort of asked me the question, or asked us the question, what was your biggest challenge, my immediate response was, which year, or which week or which month, you know what I mean? And so there are so many that I can name, and so I think that's what's critical. What's critical is for you all to just be really resolute, have some stick-to-itiveness, and just be able to sort of circumvent or persevere from whatever it is that you're going through at any given time.
Thank you, thank you. So, I'm going to open it up to you guys. We have Julius, Census Bureau. We have Charles, Data, IT. We have Anai, Construction. We have Ty, Youth Advocate. And we also have Jeff, CEO of the Musicianship. So, are your questions ready? I see your hand already. I like that, Cross. I'm going to go straight to you. Who's that? Me. Mr. Ty? There, for Ty.
So I traced my beginnings to a one-bedroom apartment in Southwest DC. It's me, my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister. And the apartment was about smaller than this, honestly. And as we were in this apartment, I wasn't just growing up, I was being raised by two parents that cared. They were working full time, and when they weren't working, they were in school, but they found some way to parent in between there. And so for me, I was able to see how our life changed as it related to their education. So as my dad went and got his master's degree, my mom went and got her terminal degree, our life changed. We moved from that one-bedroom apartment to a house in Northwest, the house that they still live in to this day. They ended up getting it renovated and some more stuff. But people never really had to tell me to care about school or anything, because in real time I had people sort of modeling it for me. Like my dad was the person that I looked up to growing up. That's who I wanted to be like. And so I would say for you, if you can't think readily right now of somebody in your immediate life to inspire you, let me be that person. I'm talking to you right now. Be inspired. Go out and do a thing, because you're great. And you hear it from your instructors all the time. But, you know what I'm saying, if you were waiting for a sign, let this be that sign. Like, you can inspire yourself. And I think that's the other half of it, is that I saw my parents doing what they did, but at some point in time, it had to be a choice for me. I had to choose that life, and so I did, and you have that same power. For sure.
Respect. Who's next? Mr. Shaw.
I have a question for all of you. What was your main goal, and is it different now? Well, what's your main goal in the past, and is it different now?
Sure, I'll start. My goal used to be just having a good job. That was my goal. That's what I thought that I wanted, because I saw my parents struggle. I actually grew up low income. I shared a bedroom with my mom until I was 14 years old. So I didn't want that for myself. I wanted to be able to give my future kids a better life, myself a better life, and my family a better life. Now, though, things are a lot better than they were before, because, you grow, you get better every single day. And I would say, yes, definitely, your goals are going to change all the time, and that's perfectly okay. Especially, if you write them down and you write new ones, or if you learn something new about yourself, something else that you're passionate about, it can change, and that's totally okay. Right now, I work in marketing and construction, but I would really like to write a book. So right now, that's my goal, and it didn't used to be that 5 or 10 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah, I think your goal kind of just changes progressively. I remember when I was kind of in your shoes, my goal was if I could just get to college, then I'll be fine, I'll work that out. Then I got to college, and I was like, oh, let me just get a decent job, and I'll be fine, I got a good job. And now that I'm standing at the point that I am right now, then I kind of want to build something for myself very similar like these co-analysts, maybe a business that helps people, especially in the community. So kind of your goals change progressively as you move through life, and always kind of what are you going to do with that next thing.
So I was born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya. Came here when I was 14. And my timeline for my life was by 35, I was going to be retired. I was going to be an entrepreneur. I was going to be traveling the world. I just turned 35 last year. But now my new goal is I really just want to impact the world, because my calling, right, my calling is I know that I have to impact the world. So that changes. When you make that decision to impact the world, then you're not allowed to be selfish. It's about everybody but you. So I never wanted to work in a 9-to-5. I never wanted to be a government worker. I never wanted to go to school, get 3 degrees. That was not my plan, but that's where I'm at right now. And now it's about how do I use everything that I went through to impact other people. So in my role, it's about policy impact. We really need to know what the laws are doing against us, saying against us, and how they're limiting specific populations, and then come up with solutions where we got to be in the rooms to change that. And so at some point, the book that I read was The Spook Who Sat by the Door. It is not, a lot of people don't like it. So I caution that, ask whoever's permission to read it, even though you don't need permission. But it talks about how infiltration requires excellence, right? And we have to be in these rooms to change these policies. So that's what I'm on right now.
Goals. So when I was younger, I don't really think that I had that many goals sort of set up for myself, honestly. And part of that was because a lot of the teachers that I was around didn't really make me feel the brightest or like the most talented. I remember second grade, my teacher actually tried to put me in special ed, but for my dad being a special education teacher himself and an administrator in the city, I probably would have went down there and had a different track entirely. I would say that when I was younger, I kind of had typical goals: basketball, football, hoop dreams. A lot of the people that I actually played against in middle school and stuff like that are in the league or went on to play D1, so it wasn't really that far off of a goal to have. But I would say that as I got older and just started getting into this world that was constantly changing, the one thing that I set out to do was just to make my goal constant elevation, whatever that looks like. So being a better version of myself today than I was yesterday, next year than I was this year, and just sort of rolling with the punches. I mean, at the end of the day, there's this age-old adage that says, when we make plans, God laughs. And it's like, you'll set out to do all of these things, and life will kind of take you in all these different directions. I think for me, I just want to be a better version of myself every day I wake up.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly who it was on the panel, but someone said your goals will change, and I think that's right. You'll just have different goals at different points of your life, in different spheres of your life. When I was your age, I didn't really have a goal. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I was very comfortable with mediocrity. I got all the grades under the rainbow, C's, D's, F's, literally. And it was in my senior year of high school where I got a couple A's in some AP classes in English. I kind of found something that, I think it was the teacher. She was awesome and really deposited something in her students that I hadn't really felt up until that point. But it was really when I was in college that I found myself just kind of striving for more, and got serious about law school and went to law school. And, from there, like I said, your goals just like change every day. But I mean, I don't want anyone sitting in this room who's getting the kind of grades that I got to feel like this is where it stops for you. I think that you'll find something else perhaps at a later point in your life. Maybe it's today where you're just inspired to sort of endeavor to do some other things that you never thought that you'd want to do.
Yes, Alea.
If you could be an animal, what you could be and why?
That's a question that I haven't thought about since childhood, probably. So at that time, I wanted to be a cheetah. And I think I wanted to be a cheetah for the same reason that I would still say that's my favorite animal now. A cheetah is really fast, and it's one of the, as a part of the cat family, is one of the most well respected. So I like to get things done, want to be fast, want to get where I'm going, and I like to be respected, as do most people. So that would be my answer. Good question.
Speaking of respect, it's a whole lot of chatter going on. It's a whole lot of chatter. I know y'all might be talking about what they're saying and all that good stuff, but your voice carries, and when you talk, when they talk, it comes off as you're not paying attention and you're being disrespectful, which I know you're not, but I'm just saying the perception, okay? So here we are.
Okay, first of all, I just want to say that's a great question. You really threw me off because I also have not thought about that in a very long time. But the first thing that came to my mind is a bird, mostly just so I could fly. And also because birds, you know, they're not domestic. Well, sometimes they're not living in cages or restricted to a certain area. They can sometimes go across the globe, fly south. And I really like that, being able to travel and being able to fly.
So, definitely a great question. What I would say is probably an owl, kind of, because you can never sneak up on them. They can turn their head like, 320 degrees. So, you know, always keep an eye out.
That is a great question. And I say that because a lot of times we get so serious about life, we don't think that we can learn something from everything around us. And there's like animals that are powerful. So, you know, like I said, I'm born and raised in Kenya, so that's not why I'm going to say Simba or a lion. However, definitely a lion, right? Like if you just see how the kings of the jungle rule the jungle, but what it means to be king, right? So in both terminologies, there's a purpose in how those things are structured. So definitely to be king and to be a lion.
So I was over here just deliberating, and I thought of something. So technically, humans are animals, so I would be myself. But if I had to pick an animal, I would pick a squirrel, because you gotta hear me out, y'all. Y'all gotta hear me out. Squirrels have immense foresight, because they will sit there and they will prepare for a winter that they know is coming. And to that end, I oftentimes think that they execute higher judgment than humans, right? Because they sit down and they have a calculated approach for a thing that is destined to come at some point in time, which is winter. Preparing food, making sure that they're set up so that when the cold does come, they're chilling. And that's kind of what I feel like I've been doing with my life, I guess, just setting up everything so that when that winter, when that cold front comes around, whatever that looks like in my world, I'll be ready. So.
Is there another? Yes? We have Emberly, and then we'll go to Taylor, okay? Yes, Emberly.
So education is very important. However, sometimes it's really expensive. What is the best advice that you can give to students who want to continue their education, but sometimes they feel very limited because of the lack of the resources?
Well, just because I just recently got a job with UDC, I'll go ahead and plug them and say that we have a couple campuses across the city that offer free classes for district residents. I know we just opened up a campus in Congress Heights that does workforce development, automotive training, hospitality, several different academies. The UDC Community College accepts anybody, so you don't have to submit any transcripts or anything. You can come in and take classes at UDCCC. I know for me, when I was sort of trying to maneuver through affordability of college, I started my matriculation through community college system. So I went to Montgomery College before I went to Howard. But also just generally speaking, and here's like a cheat code for college. Let's say you end up getting into a 4-year, right? You can load all of your general ed classes, your sciences, your maths, your all of that at a community college. Take them there, transfer them over, just get a C or better from community college, transfer them over. The GPA doesn't come, the credits do. Everything being cheaper per credit hour. And then when you're at your university that you're at, the only thing you're focusing on is your major and electives. So that way your GPA reflects your passions and you save a little bit of money too. So that's my tip.
Just to piggyback off of that, I did the same thing. I took classes at Montgomery College before I went to Maryland. I also applied to University of Maryland because it was in-state. So when you go to school that is in the same state where you live, it's a lot cheaper than if you were to aim for a school out of state. So look within your state. There's lots of good schools in Maryland, D.C., Virginia, great schools around here. I know Virginia, Northern Virginia Community College, they have an agreement with certain colleges where they have a program just like what he was talking about, that you can take certain classes there and they immediately transfer. And sometimes if you have an above C average, I think that you're immediately accepted through Nova Community College. I also worked. I worked since I was 14 years old. So luckily I had parents that taught me how to save, which basically, you know, what they taught me was at that age was to only spend half of my check. So I would, every single check that I got, even though I wanted lots of things, I put half away for a rainy day. Similar to what you were saying about, you know, the squirrel and stashing stuff for a rainy day, you really have to know how to do that because school is expensive, books are expensive. Also, you know, use financial aid, apply for it. There are so many scholarships and grants too. A lot of people don't apply, but you guys in this room, I feel like you all have great stories, and just even going to this academy is a great story. So don't be scared to apply. You might get a million no's and one yes, and the one yes is all you need to kind of put you over and be able to afford school. Those are my tips.
Yeah, kind of leaning on that a little bit. You guys have like a room full of people you can ask these questions, especially with the scholarships and what to apply to. All you need to do is take your time and write like a 1 page, maybe 2 page, and people will give you thousands of dollars. Like I went to the University of Maryland, definitely didn't have all of it covered, but it definitely helped out doing that, doing the work study. Like I mentioned the Jamaican thing, having like 3 jobs, like those things help out and it'll help you get through school. And depending on the field, you may be able to gain some of those skills like through YouTube, looking at training courses like Udemy or stuff, because like in my position, we'll look for, let's say, a Python developer. I don't care whether he learned Python from going to school for 4 years or whether he looked at a course and knows better than the guy that went to Harvard. It's really about what you're bringing to the table, how you pitch your story to the interviewer, and that approach.
So first I want to give a shout out to Ty. He's like the man. This is the second time we've been on a panel together. But he hit it on the nail, right? So I went to Prince George's Community College, like a lot of us, and then transferred in. But knowing what courses transfer, right? All those core classes, right? One of my jobs, I was a retention advisor at Morgan State, and I just saw that everybody took all the wrong courses at the wrong place. All the core classes that you will never need, right? Take them to community college. I did 2 years of Prince George's, and then I transferred to UMBC. Learn how to tell your story, because there's money in your story. Everybody else is doing it. Everybody else is crafting a narrative, targeting it to a pot of money. Do that. When I got to grad school, I worked full-time, went to school at night, and I had a research assistantship, right? But I say that because it sounds interesting, but understand what that means. You have to now balance both. So if you're going to get college subsidized, you might have to work just a little bit more, right? You might have to tell your story a little bit more. So that is, the price is truly just how much you're going to commit to your success. Because working full-time and going to school sounds cute, but it's not. But it's the way that I save money. And I did the same thing for law school. I went to law school at night. A lot of people say it's not advised, but that's the way I had to do it. I worked full-time, went to law school at night. That's another way you can save money. So.
I just wanted to add one thing. That I didn't say, which was sometimes people, you know, that do have financial ability can graduate in 4 years. Don't be discouraged by that because it took me 6.5 years to graduate. I was working through school, and I did take on a second job and go to school full time, and you know, just keep going. It doesn't matter how long it takes you, just finish.
And real quick, don't ever feel like you're too good for those small scholarships and stuff, guys, because the $250 church scholarship that's gonna help you with an iPad, with the book, the there are a whole bunch of little scholarships from community organizations and things like that, and they add up. So I know for me, at 13, and now imagine this, my dad worked at Howard, so I got tuition remission, essentially free tuition at Howard to go there. And I got to take all of the scholarships that I had applied for as refunds. So I think my first semester at Howard, I made $20,000 in scholarships. Like on top of room and board being covered, all of that. Imagine being 13 with that money, all right? Crazy. But like you can be young and have
some money at your disposal and manage. It's just all about how you expose yourself. We see the viral stories of people accruing like millions of dollars in scholarships. The money's there. So just go out and apply for it. And like she said, the worst that can happen is a no, but the right yes will set you on your way. So.
Yeah, I'd like to offer a shameless plug for music education. I got a drum scholarship to go to Howard, and though it wasn't a full scholarship, it was enough to sort of get me out here. You know, sometimes when I think about the ways in which people go after scholarships, particularly those in athletics, you think about the basketball team. There are only 12 to 15 positions on the basketball team. There are only 50 to 60 positions on the football team. But there are hundreds in a marching band, and there are hundreds in a choir. And so, like, these, you know, music departments around the country are looking for people who can sing, looking for people who can play an instrument. So I recognize that not everybody in here is artistically inclined, but as statistics would show, my man here knows more about statistics than I do. I know that there's somebody in here who is artistically talented. So look into music education. You know, I shared that I did really poorly in high school and middle school, but I did really well in college. And so after my sophomore year, I ended up just getting like a full academic scholarship for the rest of my time at Howard.
Speaking of talent, we're having a talent show. Not this Friday, but next Friday. See me to sign up. Any more questions? Yes, Ms. Brown. I'm so sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I know. So one, thank you, because now I could do a plug for the Census Bureau. So two things. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what the Census Bureau does. So every 10 years, they do a population count for the nation, right? They go around counting people, and the reason is there's about $675 billion, that's a B, dollars that the federal government allocates to different states for everything. So that's schools, roads, all the things that we're like, yo, they need to fix this in my community. That is based on a population count that was done 10 years ago. And a lot of people that look like us are not counted because we don't trust the government, right? So they knock on your door and you were like, nah. But when we say no, what really happens is that person is not allocated. And for some states, it's about $1,800 a year per person. So what I do, I notice that's a problem. You know, so I live in Baltimore City. So initially I was like, I'm gonna make sure people in Baltimore City get counted, and I'm gonna get employed to do this. The strategy is trusted voices. So I went in and I said, our approach is all wrong in terms of outreach. We're never gonna be trusted. What we need to do is work with schools, churches, pastors. I can get them to believe that the census matters, and I'll just give them all the training resources. So they just tell their, you know, whoever they're dealing with, this is why it matters. So what I do, I build trust with trusted voices in communities that look like us. So we can get counted, so we can get the roads fixed, the schools, you know, better funded, so we can have better hospitals, all those things. And for a lot of people, 10 years from now, it's not even gonna feel like it matters, but I know from a statistics perspective, every 10 years we can watch how communities change, and we're not being adequately funded, so.
Can you speak any to DACA in the census?
Okay. Okay, so he asked about DACA. That's how we count undocumented populations. And so I want to make this clear. Maybe a couple months ago, this administration tried to add a question whether or not we should add citizenship question on the census. First time ever. The Supreme Court ruled that it was not constitutional, meaning it's not on the questionnaire. But I want to be clear, whether or not you're a citizen or not citizen, resident or not resident, you should be counted. There's fear behind that. So Title 13 of the U.S. Constitution states that when we count people, documented and undocumented, we're not going to keep any single data on you. And the whole purpose is to make sure that that community or in that census tract is properly funded. So if there's 100 people in that census tract, documented and undocumented citizen, non-citizen, there's going to be 100 money allocated for 100 people. So to his question, that is our hardest thing to do right now, because currently the climate, specifically when it comes to undocumented citizens. They don't feel comfortable working with this administration, working with this government. But so for y'all in this room, I need you guys to go to your communities and say the Census Bureau is nonpartisan, apolitical. We're bound by Title 13, and we cannot share your information to the FBI, CIA, and RRS, period. Problem is, people will never believe me. So research it, right? If you think what I'm saying is not true, prove me wrong, right? Google Title 13, Google the census, and so when you do believe me, now go to your communities and really be like, yo, this is why we need to get counted. You don't have to be a citizen to fill out this form, so.
Thank you. Ms. Brown talked about social media and
Yeah.
how, yes.
So I work in marketing. I do my company's social media. And, you know, I'm friends with the HR person at my job. 1,000% they're going to look at your social media because they want to know if you're a culture fit. So whenever you're applying for jobs, if your page is on public, and sometimes even if it's not, they're able to see it. So clean it up.
Clean it up. Clean it up.
What was it?
Right, exactly. So whatever you put on the web, it's there forever and accessible to whomever. Know this, okay?
Yeah, I mean, there's ways to like, so I know they have like little apps like Tweet Eraser or something like that that'll generally speaking delete your stuff or whatever, but to the extent that somebody cares enough, they'll always be able to find anything that you've logged on the internet. So just be very, very, very conscious of the representations you're making on there, because the internet is a forever thing, and it's going to be hanging around with us for the rest of our lives. So just be smart.
Indeed, indeed. Yes, Dr. Fernandez. Yes. Excelente.
So mi pregunta es, ¿qué obstáculos enfrentaste en la vida conforme estabas en tu carrera?
Una cosa que yo enfrenté es que a veces familias que han estado acá por muchas generaciones tienen más, mejor educación, o a veces han podido ir a colegios privados. Y lo que dicen es cierto, que a veces no es quien conoces, no es lo que conoces, es quien conoces. Eso es verdad. Porque en mi trabajo yo veo que hay gente que solamente por ir a un colegio han podido tener oportunidad de trabajar en mi compañía. Sin embargo, lo único que yo he tenido que ofrecer es mi personalidad y mi experiencia. Y eso es importante también. Y lo que quiero que ustedes sepan es que siendo latino, a veces tienes buena oportunidad, porque las compañías y los colegios necesitan tener un porcentaje de minoridad en su compañía o en su colegio para tener no sé cómo decir, tax break. Para tener beneficios con los taxes. Entonces, por ejemplo, yo no fui una estudiante muy buena en el colegio, pero sin embargo me aceptaron a la Universidad de Maryland, y yo pienso que es porque yo soy latina. Entonces, aplica a los trabajos, sí tienes buena oportunidad.
Gracias.
Thank you.
All right, we're running out of time. We'll do we have time for one more? Or one more question to one person. Cross, I'm gonna have to give it to somebody else because you already asked. Is there anybody new? Oh, but it's a stat. Oh man, this is a conflict here. It's for a student. All right, because it's students first.
Broke nonprofit? Yeah. So I'll answer the second question first. For the first 3 years of the Musicianship's existence, we had a budget of less than $20,000. That's a broke nonprofit. It was in year 4 that we got our very first grant, actually from the Department of Employment Services, for about $64,000. And I'm talking about numbers because I feel like people in communities of color don't talk about numbers enough, so I'm not like being braggadocious by like sharing these numbers, and it's all public record anyway. And so we just grew year after year. Next year, our budget will be about $1.5 million, which, as far as nonprofits go in DC, is still relatively small. But we have, full-time staff, and we do a lot of good work in 4 different countries. So we're doing okay. Whenever somebody tells me they want to start a nonprofit, I always talk to them about 2 different things. One is sort of the technical aspect of it, and so, getting incorporated, going after your 501c3 charity status, which requires you to fill out what's called a 1023 form with the IRS, but first you got to go to the IRS to get your employee identification number, which only takes about 15 minutes. I mean, we can talk about this sort of the technical aspect of it, the things that trip a lot of our people up, but that's critical in order for you to be able to be eligible to get funds from the corporations or from the government agencies and even from individuals, because they want tax deductions when they make contributions to your entity. But the second path, outside of like that technical stuff, is sort of centers on this idea of a minimum viable product. That term is birthed out of a book called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. And the minimum viable product is just answers the question, at a bare minimum, what do I need to do to sort of be operationally successful and mission aligned with the work that I'm doing? And so in our case, even though we're working with 1,600 kids this year in 4 countries, our minimum viable product is going into one school, providing one student with an instrument lesson, hopefully altering their life trajectory to get them out of high school and into college. That is our minimum viable product. In your case, it might be something in food services, it might be something in health, it might be something in dealing with the environment. But you have to just figure out, at a bare minimum, what do you need to be sort of operationally successful and in line with your mission, because your growth over time is going to be iterative. The Facebook that we know of today did not start like that. I was introduced to Facebook when it was only for people who were in college. And before that, it was only for people who were in Ivy League colleges. And so now we know it as this ubiquitous entity that, has our grandma on it now, right? Like, Facebook probably ain't even cool to y'all. But all that to say that your business, your nonprofit organization is going to grow in a very iterative fashion that's sort of responsive to the market and what it is that people want from your organization. I know that was like a mouthful, and we can talk all day about this stuff, but that's a start. First, think about the technical stuff, and then think about like what it is that you actually want to do and need to do.
In terms of the startup landscape, be sure to look around to see what local accelerators you have. You're in the DC community. There's a lot of big companies here. You have Howard about, 10 minutes down the road. So we have these resources out here to help people out. And all you need to do is have a clear, refined story. Because like we're talking about, it's not necessarily if you have all the details, but can you tell your story correctly? And as much details you have will get people hopping on your dream.
Yes, and we have a chance for you to talk to these wonderful people and network with them coming up in like 10 seconds, okay? But meanwhile, I would like for you all to give a round of applause to Julius, Charles, Anai, Ty, and Jeff. Yes, also clap it up for our organizers, Dr. E and Miss Cray. Clap it up for them. Thank you to our fearless leader, Dr. Fernandez, for allowing us to do these things. But right now, we're going to move into the portion where we will be networking, and you'll be introduced to them, and you'll talk about yourself. You'll ask these questions. You'll take notes. You'll get their emails. You'll get their LinkedIns. You'll get all of that. And we're going to do all of that over in the conference room, okay? So thank you guys so. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. The setup is there. We'll do it right here, not the conference room. But thank you guys so very much, and I look forward to more interactions with you all and more with our students. Thank you.